In this demo, you're going to see how you can enhance your developer's experience by bringing the latest in serverless computing capabilities with Cloud Run for Anthos. First things first, let's have a look at our on-prem cluster. If we have a look at our namespaces, you can see we've got a few namespaces. We're going to deploy Cloud Run inside this on-prem cluster. Let's use our G-Cloud tool to set a few parameters. Let's go ahead and deploy Cloud Run. This will be the serving part of the Cloud Run project. We're going to show you the eventing pieces later. All we have to do is run this kubectl apply command and we'll have it deployed. This one's going to deploy the CRD. And lastly, we'll set up our serving namespace and get all those components ready so we can start to deploy applications and serve them up. You can see there's a bunch of pieces deployed into this. Gets us ready to go really quickly. We'll go ahead and set our project inside our GCP environment. First thing we're going to do here is deploy a GKE cluster inside Google Cloud. This will allow us to interact with both our on-prem and our cloud cluster and show you some of the Cloud Run capabilities. In this use case, we're going to deploy to both separate clusters and show you what we're able to do. This will take a few minutes. We've got a Kubernetes cluster being spun up in Google Cloud Platform. You can see we've got our demo cluster 1 coming up. Our cluster will be up in a couple minutes. We'll be able to start to interact with it. You can see here our cluster's online. We've got a master IP. What we're going to do here is show you how we're going to deploy all these components. We're going to be leveraging config management to control all our policy and all our objects across our cluster. We've got a YAML file here that we're going to deploy. This is our operator for config management. We've got our config management manifest. In this case, we're going to be syncing off that repo. We're pulling from master branch, and you can see our policy directory. One of the other things we want to be able to do is set a custom domain. By default, Cloud Run ships with a custom domain, but we want to use our own. In this case, we're going to use cloudrunrocks.com for our on-prem cluster, and we're going to use Cloud Run Rocks on GKE in our cloud clusters. Let's go ahead and deploy these. We'll deploy the first operator, which will deploy that on our cluster. Now you can see we've got a config management namespace deployed. It's been up for 38 seconds. We'll run our second apply and we'll set up our custom domain. Here's our cloud cluster. We're going to run the same things on it. Deploy our operator. It'll start watching that repo and start to get synced. You can see that's up. And in the same case, we're going to deploy our custom domain to this one so it's ready to go with our new URL, and we'll be able to hit it via our DNS configuration. If we go back here, we also want to make a small tweak to the URL. By default, Cloud Run will add the namespace to the URL. We want to take that away. This way we can use a wildcard in front of all our addresses. Now what we're going to do is move into our Git workflow. So we're going to deploy our Arctic weather app, and we're going to do that via config management and from a GitOps workflow. First thing you can see, I don't have this called .yaml file, so we're just going to make an easy change. Take away the .1. That'll allow config manager to start to say, okay, I need to apply this policy out to my clusters. If we check No-Most status, No-Most status is a tool that allows us to look at our configuration management status in our clusters. You can see here, we're all synced up on this cluster and ready to go. We go ahead and refresh our screen. You can see it's already deployed our weather app to both our clusters. We'll be able to connect to that. What it's done is it's pulled our container image, it's deployed it to our on-prem and our cloud clusters, and it's set up our front end so we can connect to the application. If we dive into the application, we can see lots of details. Up in the top right, you can see our cloudrunrocks.com URL. Let's dive into that. We've got our Arctic weather app deployed. Let's go ahead and look up the weather in Toronto today. 10 degrees. If we dive into our cloud cluster, you can see the URL is a little bit different, but the application is the exact same. We'll look up the weather in San Francisco. Now, if we go back to our workflow again, we'll work off this same file. What we're going to do is just replace the contents of this file. So we'll make this small change. You can also see we've got a green name and we've also got a different image that we're going to pull from GCR. Commit that to master. Now, if we do our No-Most status, you'll see the last sync token has changed. So that's telling us that it's picked up a change and it's going to roll it out across our clusters. Refresh the GCP console. We dive into our application. We've got a revisions tab here. So now we can start to look at different revisions. You can see we've got a blue version and a green version. 100% of the traffic is going to the blue version, and we'll have a staging or a candidate URL for the green. So there's the container image URL. Here's our blue one that was just deployed a minute ago. So if we dive into our application, let's refresh the screen. You can see when we add candidate to the URL, we've got our green version of our application. We refresh our Cloud Run interface. We have a look at our other cluster, and we've got our blue. So that's off the main URL. If we change it over to candidate, we should have our green one come up. So we've got both versions deployed in both of our clusters, and we've got a candidate URL in front of the other one. So let's go back into our Git workflow again. Let's make another change to this configuration. In this case, let's change the weight a little bit. So we're at 100 and 0. We're going to go to 50-50, and we'll commit this change. Check our no-mo status again. You can see it's picked up a change, and it's going to roll this out. In this case, we should start to see a 50-50 split across our blue and our green. You can see how easy Cloud Run makes this. Adding on configuration and working through a Git-based workflow makes the experience even better for your developers. In this case, we're going to edit this file. We'll go ahead and replace the contents. We've made a few changes to this. So you can see now we've got a previous tag, a current, and a latest, and we're pulling different images. So we'll still be able to get back to our previous revision, but we'll have a new one. So if we go no-mo status, you've seen it picked up a change again across our clusters. Let's refresh. This one will be green all the time now because this is our main site. You can see if we go to previous, it's blue. Gonna have a look at the weather. This one's not getting any traffic because it's on the previous URL. So we could do a rollback here if we wanted to. So there you go. I was able to show you Cloud Run deployed across a GKE cluster in cloud and one on-prem, all working through a Git-based workflow, and we're able to deploy applications with release candidates and different versions and start to stage things out to our production environments. I hope you got to see the power of Cloud Run. This was a serving piece of what Cloud Run brings to the table. In the next demo, I'm going to show you what eventing has and some use cases that eventing can do for you in your enterprise environments.